Now, anyone wish to speak, one at a time, name and address for the record, and we would ask that you try not to ask the same questions. First one, name and address for the record.
What's the topic? We just want to make sure that we are following
the agenda. There's an agenda.
There are two agendas as far as I understand, and those of us who are in the back could not hear you.
There's one agenda. There's one agenda.
What was it?
Any items on the one agenda that you have back there, that would be the public hearing on the parades, the community development block grant, the veterans tax.
Okay, I'm ready after that.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nancy Andre. I live at 1 Sergio Court.
Thank you, Ms. Andre, for coming out this evening.
Thank you for hearing me. I am here because I'm actually quite disappointed about things that are happening in the community, and I feel like we have to be here to voice our concerns because it's not being heard. December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, which may not be recognized by the entire community, but is the eve of a holiday for all of us. We were advised at the very last hour that there was a parade which would shut down my street. There was no consideration that it was Christmas Eve. No consideration that I, myself, could have guests that could not park on my block. I could not communicate to my guests because I was not notified until one day before. How was I notified? Someone actually had the nerve to open my mail and put a notice.
You mean your mailbox? You mean
Yes.
your mailbox?
Mailbox.
Yeah, not
Yes.
your mail, in your mailbox.
In my mailbox.
Okay.
It was not mailed.
I understand, but there's a difference between putting something in your mail and in your mailbox.
Okay,
Yes, it is illegal. You're absolutely right. And there's been
I
flyers.
believe the majority of the people in the room understood what I was trying to say.
We all did.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. I didn't.
The one person. So
We're gonna keep the chatter in the back. I know it's very, we're not in elementary school, we're not in high school, all right?
Then why are you treating us like we are?
Because we got to set the
You're acting like a
ground
tyrant here.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Stop lecturing us.
No, I have
And a
to.
federal mailbox is a federal mailbox.
We're not here to talk about the federal mailbox.
Gee whiz, come on.
Miss Andre, go right ahead.
okay, I'll let you know why there's frustration in the room.
I
I've
understand.
been attending a couple of meetings. This is the first one where it seems like the people on the board are hostile.
No,
Jesus.
only
I-
me.
Yes.
Hey, I'm the chair of the meeting.
You represent
I'm the chair of the meeting.
Okay,
Look
so
at me.
I've been attending a few because it's important for the people to talk about their concerns.
Understood.
And if this is what this platform is for, and the action or the reaction we're getting for speaking our mind is what you're giving us, there's a problem.
Well,
So let me just
you know what? I'll
finish.
apologize then. This is what I will do. I will apologize if it is coming across that I'm being...
I appreciate the apology. I'll just continue. So I appreciate that we've got people who celebrate a number of different religions. And I'll be honest, I went into a community, I was different, but when you respect other people's preferences, other people's interests, Christmas Eve, it may not be your celebration,
Oh, it is.
but there are people who could be coming to my home who have no opportunity to know that they can't access my property. And while,
Excuse me. Right, and that's why the law that's before us is addressing it.
okay, so then I'll tell you a couple things that I'd like to ask. You should not block somebody's home. I don't care what the reason is. For me to come in and out of my home and to hope that you don't have something happening, and I don't care what day it is, but it was worse that it was Christmas Eve. But I will tell you, I don't care what day it is. I should have the ability to come in and out of my home and not ask for permission.
No argument.
I should not have somebody put something in my mailbox to tell me that I have a day notice to warn anybody who might want to come to my home what they need to do, where they should park, how to avoid children that might be around. Now, celebrate whatever you want to celebrate. Don't do it in front of my house. You know why? Because I don't do it. I respect other people's property. And when you're doing it on people's property, you say it's just on a street. It's not on a street. People are on people's lawns. Let's think about what we're authorizing here. People are on people's lawns. And I'll be honest, and you say just stick to the facts. I witness it. They're videotapes, right? It's not just on the street. I've seen people park next to my house and then cross my home to get to other homes because it's more convenient for them. Be considerate of your neighbors. Now, people don't realize when they see I'm frustrated, as a neighbor, I will tell you I'm frustrated, and they think they're the only one. You're not the only one. You're the only one who just did that one indiscretion. I am tired of begging. I am tired of asking. I pay taxes like everyone else. Just be considerate of everyone.
And that's what we're trying to do with
well, I believe that there are some concerns with the rules that you're passing.
We're not passing anything this evening. What we're doing is it is out for us to discuss, and we will take into account the concerns that are being made to us this evening.
And I guess the other thing is the only reason why I'm here to speak about it because it happened on my block. I don't know if everyone else would have been aware if we didn't have a member of our community who's making sure that the whole world is aware. But it happened to me, and it impacts me a lot. You need to recognize that voices are speaking. They're speaking loudly, and they're speaking often. And if there's a way to get people to understand, we are here as a community. You cannot be acting as one person and think that whatever you want to do can happen here. It just doesn't happen.
I agree. Thank you.
Jerry Liebelson, 31 Midway Road. All my remarks are prepared. I just want to first say I have nothing to do with that flyer that you see there in red. I am not affiliated with that. That one I did, but not the one you were raving about. Okay.
I was complimenting. I didn't rave on it.
Well, whatever. I'm not responsible. I attended the workshop, and I am here. So get your pen ready because I am here to talk about the parade law. Okay. Now,
I'm sorry. You're going to talk about
the parade law. Now, on July, and this is all I'm going to say, so just let me go, and then I have got the bullet points, all right? On July 2nd, 2017, without any advance notice to residents or even the police, a major access road in my neighborhood, Spring Hill Terrace, was blocked off by the Chaverim to hold a religious procession. It's called a Torah dedication. I'll just call it a religious procession. I assume you know who the Chaverim are. If you don't, I can fill you in. The Chaverim directed traffic off of busy state Route 45. There were dozens of minivans with families of many small children, in addition to a large parade vehicle with extremely loud music. Neighbors could not get in and out of their homes, and it was chaos. The police were finally summoned, and just 2 officers were available, but overwhelmed in dealing with the situation. The next morning, garbage was strewn all over the block, on either side of the street. Even after it was cleaned up, I still found soiled diapers here and there remaining. Nothing like this should ever happen in our neighborhoods. Since then, there have been 2 other religious processions of this nature that I know of, and there will be plenty more. So I'm pleased that you have finally drafted a formal law to address this. However, as it stands now, and I've read the text, the law you are presenting to us is seriously deficient in the following ways, which I ask you to please correct. Number 1, there must be direct advance notification by the village, not the parade applicant, to residents of the affected street. The law must specify the number of days in advance and the manner of notification, whether it's by mail or signs on telephone poles, but some neighborhoods don't have telephone poles, whatever. Just having public notices at Village Hall or on your website or in local papers by themselves is not acceptable. This is not only and not primarily about parades down Main Street. We are talking about our homes and our streets. We need to know a week before at least that the street's going to be blocked off. Okay, and there's going to be loud noise and zillions of kids and police and everything like that. Number 2, some maximum limit on the time duration of these events needs to be specified, or otherwise require neighborhood approval beyond a specified threshold. Number 3, set limits on the volume and type of music and other noise, perhaps dependent on the duration of the event. Number 4, define procedures for allowing paramedics and ambulances immediate access to a property on a blocked-off street during the event. Number 5, affirm the required presence of adequate Ramapo police to be in control of the event for its entire duration. As to costs, that's something there's something mentioned in the text about Department of Public Works, so I seek clarification from you on this, but specifically I ask, who will pay for the cost of police involvement? And 2, exactly how, by whom, and when will the street be cleaned up, and who will pay for this cleanup? I don't see any of that in the law. And so I ask you either to correct it, to add that, or to explain to me for the record why these things cannot be put in the law. Specifically, the first one, the advance notification.
I don't object to any of these bullet points that you had brought up. My reading and my interpretation of the law, other than perhaps the direct notice from the village as opposed to the host of the event, I believe we try to address. However, as laws are always revised and tweaked, there's never any harm in trying to clarify it a little bit better, and we will do that.
Yeah, just to point out, as the other person from Sergio Court, that last notification was done by the parade person, and it was just a piece of paper in their mailbox. So it can't be up to the parade applicant. That's why it has to be the village. We cannot, it's got to be within an advanced period of time. That's all.
And that's understandable, and just by way of experience, I had a similar event, and I got the notice in my mailbox a couple of days before.
Okay.
And,
well, that's better than a day before.
And I watched and then whatever, but I understand.
Okay, thank you. I just want you to consider those points.
Thank you. Okay, next please. Name and address for the record.
It is dancing, it's like an obstacle course, but I've made it. Good evening, Hilda Kogut, 20 Pine Knoll Court. I wanted to actually speak to the issue regarding the parade law, because I looked at a couple of the items and I think there should be some changes. I think that a notice to the village of 5 days in advance of an event is not sufficient. I think because if you're going to do...
You said notice to the village. What do you mean by that?
5 days, well, I'm looking here...
No, it's not the 5 days. You said notice to the village. What does that mean?
Advising the village or
Advising the
applying for
They need to apply sooner. You think they should apply sooner?
I don't think it's a sufficient amount of time, because if it's a parade, that doesn't give enough turnaround time to notify the residents of the community. Part 2 is that I believe that the only people that should be involved in maintaining law and order, if you will, during the course of the parade should be the Ramapo Police Department, and only the Ramapo Police Department. Prior experiences were not particularly good with regard to other individuals who said that they were deputized or sworn to, allowed to maintain order. I only want to see Town of Ramapo Police Departments or their official auxiliary.
If I could address that, in particular, as a result of the Spring Hill Terrace weekend that there was a parade, I addressed that with Ramapo and Ramapo PD, and they have an understanding and a relationship with Haveram. So that's really on Ramapo whether they're going to put one of their people there or they're going to assign Haveram to do that. So that.
I didn't say it.
No. I'm letting you know. I'm just no need to go. I'm just letting you know that was addressed with Ramapo PD, and I cannot tell Ramapo PD how to staff. The whole idea is Ramapo PD will be made aware. They are supposed to be in on what's going to happen, the travel path, and things of that nature. In my particular instance, again by me, I had Ramapo PD was escorting in addition to the Haveram being there. So I think it depends on the event, it depends on the extent of the event. But that's something that is part of the process when we speak with Ramapo. I rely on Ramapo to staff.
That's fine and dandy as long as Ramapo oversees the individuals that are there, because no matter how you look back on that situation on Spring Hill, it was a debacle on a lot of different levels, and part of it was a control situation and how the situation was controlled. So that's really what I think.
And I will not argue with you on that.
And last but not least, I have to agree with notification of the residents of the community. My father was a mailman. You don't touch somebody's mailbox. You don't put anything in somebody's mailbox. It has to be done appropriately, and perhaps it should be the responsibility of the village, taking into mind that we have a lot of people who are not computer people. So we have to notify the residents of this community and put them on notice so that they make appropriate provisions to protect themselves or do something on a particular day.
And on that subject, what we need then as a village to assure that people are made aware, we need to make sure that if you are computer literate, you give us your email. And if you wanted to have a phone call, you need to make sure that we've got the right phone number for you, because we do not have access to everyone's emails. We do not have access to everyone's phones. So if you want to be sure to be included in any notice, you need to contact the village and you give us the notice of your choice. If you want it could be both, but give us the notice of your choice.
Sounds fine to me. It's like one of those reverse calls about what's going to be happening, and we'll all come to the party.
Correct.
Is it an opportunity to speak on other things, or are we just talking about the parade?
Actually, on the agenda. So if there's anything else on the agenda, you need to speak on.
I had other things too.
Because I don't think I can get back up here. I wanted to talk about the House of Worship matter, and say that while I appreciate what you've said tonight, and I appreciate the spirit in which you offer it, I look at that and I'm kind of concerned that were not other members of communities sitting at the table when this particular thing was drafted.
Oh yes, there's no question.
So that being said, when I look at this, and I want to say right off the bat that the idea that whenever, if this were to be adopted, that there would be a grandfather process allowing for however many of these houses of worship managed to develop before the approval, that's kind of a concern to me. The idea that people would be able to start signage is also a concern to me. I think, as a matter of course, I really just believe that it seems that it was not an inclusive process when this particular law or proposed resolution was drafted, and I have a problem with that.
Well, I don't. The inclusiveness really went along the lines of we have our mosque in the village, we have our couple of Christian communities in the village, and we have a number of our Jewish houses of worship. And what was trying to be done was we were trying to figure out a way to come up with a plan that applies to all religious practices and all religious denominations. Now, there was no exclusivity to the degree that they had the in on what was going on. What we tried to do actually was through the planner. The planner actually tried to look at other villages' ways of addressing it, in particular the parking. Wesley Hills, I believe, they're big on the. They had a template for us to follow with regard to the parking, for instance. So we didn't rely on a single resource. We had our planner come up with the plan, so to speak, and then we tried to get some feedback from who would be the end users in that as a practical thing. Because I don't know. I don't know all my religions. So.
Well, but we have other churches. We have the Coptic Church.
Correct.
We have the Foster
Right.
Church.
Right.
Would have been a great thing to invite some of those people who have already been through the process to sit at the table and give their input. That's not to say that they're not going to have that opportunity going
That's
forward.
correct.
But that was my suggestion.
And that's fine. And they will have an opportunity.
Going forward.
And they will have an opportunity.
Okay. All right.
Those shouldn't be open like before.